Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. So last week we started the Dark Phoenix Saga. We did episodes 1 and 2 of the animated series.
Yeah.
And now we're going to pick back up with parts 3 and 4.
Uh-huh.
A lot has happened in
Yeah.
these two episodes.
Uh-huh.
So let's recap real quick before we plow ahead.
Uh-huh.
So it's mostly Wingard manipulating Jean with his illusions, and the X-Men fighting with
Hellfire Club.
the Hellfire Club. Is that basically it?
Yeah, I mean, the first episode, Emma Frost is the one that tells the whole story of how Jean came back. So it's telling us, the audience, how Jean came back. It's setting up that Jean isn't herself because Phoenix is still in there. Mastermind is there to control, and then some Hellfire politics that then become the X-Men having to deal with the Hellfire Club again, and then solidifying that Jean is now Dark Phoenix.
Yeah. Very good. That was a good recap.
I mean, there's a stuff happening, and I'm glad it's taking the time to do the Mastermind stuff, because a lesser show would just have it one episode.
Oh, yeah. Just like jump to the Shi'ar or something.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that is good.
Especially because all the pre-Shi'ar stuff is my favorite stuff of the Dark Phoenix Saga. So,
Well, it's the most like subtle and interesting.
yeah, and it's also a lot of times in the comics when it's the Hellfire stuff, it's moodier, which I like. And
Yeah.
the show is a bit too fast-paced for that, but like the Mastermind fight with Cyclops and the Wolverine sneaking through the club, like that stuff is a bit moodier, more atmospheric.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh boy, part 3 is written by Larry Parr.
Called The Dark Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Appropriately.
We open to Jean leaving and going to space, or there's a Shi'ar scout ship, and they're like, the cold nothing of space. Boring.
Yeah, they make a very big point to be like, well, we're charting this star system and there's definitely no one alive here, so that's boring.
But here's my thing. The cold nothingness of space is nothing but occupied in the Marvel Universe and cartoon.
They found the one star system that is unoccupied.
The X-Men fight Dark Phoenix here, and they end up in a park because Wolverine gets thrown into the pond and he says, ducks! And then he's like, I hate ducks. And I'm like...
I was very sad when he said, I hate ducks, because without that was like my favorite thing that has ever happened in this entire show, was just him flying into a pond and just saying ducks because he saw ducks. Like if that was it, that would have been just the highlight of my life.
Gambit gets caught by Rogue, and Gambit says, like, I can't help but notice you caught me and not Wolverine. And then she drops him, like, stop making Rogue mad when she's the one carrying you.
It's a game he likes to play.
But yeah, Phoenix is just going on about how much she loves these senses. She says something like, with her keen human senses, and I'm like, keen human senses? Try inhabiting a dog. You'll have the best day of your life.
They're so keen.
It's funny because at one point she's like, now I'm experiencing annoyance and frustration. I'm like, well, those are sensations. You can't complain about loving sensations and then hating annoyance and frustration.
It was cool to hear her kind of like fine tune exactly what was happening. Because like she said, when it's hard, like when it's a challenge for me, I still get that feeling of stimulation. Isn't that interesting? But if it's easy, then that's...
Yeah, when she's just beating the X-Men, that it diminishes.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. At the end of the scene, we get a flame wipe.
Well, the fight has a cool moment where she is using her Phoenix powers, and she causes Gambit's powers to cause his jacket to explode, and he has to like jump out of it.
He like does a cool flip out of his jacket.
And she turns a tree into gold that Rogue is dealing with. Oh, and Rogue tries to absorb her powers, and I'm just like, Rogue should know better at this point. If she can't absorb the Juggernaut's powers and Storm's powers, she can't absorb the Phoenix's powers.
But you see something happen, you know? Like you see some sort of transfer. I was sure that there was going to be something, but there was absolutely nothing.
She basically just wipes out the X-Men, and Scott's there, and Jean has a moment where she's back, and she says, I love you, Scott. No matter what the future holds, I love you. And listen, I know it's a cartoon, and I know sometimes it's dumb and this is melodramatic, but darn it if I didn't get choked up when she said that.
It was nice, yeah.
I don't know why. I don't even really care about the Jean and Scott love story most of the time. But there's just something so melodramatic of it that it got me. And I was like, darn it.
Yeah, I liked a lot of the things that they did with the two of them throughout this. I guess just because it's so tortured.
Yeah.
Something like appealing about that because they like can't have each other, but they love each other. Cyclops has one too because he talks to Phoenix directly. Mm-hmm. And Phoenix is like, what is happening? Why do you care so much about the stupid body?
Because I love you. I love her. And Phoenix is like, I don't understand what that is. Your answer is unacceptable.
Love does not compute.
Yeah. Looks like Phoenix needs to get her groove back. That's what we should have. They're like, wait, well, let's work on this. And they convince Dark Phoenix to just go on like a date. And like she does speed dating and she has to be
on. Just put Gambit on it, I think.
She has to be on Tinder and you see her on her dates and she's like, oh, now I get it.
Now I understand love.
Yep. You know what it is? I think that is effective. Is that in this show they do like each other, where in the movies and other things it's always like, does Jean actually care?
Yeah.
And in this, she does, and that helps.
She very clearly is. It is a helpful element to a relationship to have both partners like each other.
Yeah, she flies out and there's that big phoenix flame and you see Doctor Strange, you see Thor, and you see the Watcher all being like, uh-oh, we have uh-oh.
I felt this way in the comic too. When you see them, it's just sort of like, so they'll do something, right?
Yeah, I mean, she just books it off planet, so maybe they're like, well, that was weird.
That was close, man.
Yeah.
I think she's gone.
Yeah. So yeah, we cut to the Dubari star system, which is the alien race that showed up in the X-Men Dark Phoenix movie. They're like broccoli vegetable people in the comics.
Well, they're the comic people that she wipes out.
There's no people on this planet. She goes and she eats the star, which the Shi'ar ship is able to survive because the Shi'ar are there. And they're like, is anybody hurt? They're like, no, the planet was uninhabited. Thank goodness. And they're like, uh-oh, we better tell Lilandra. I don't know. Whatever. Do you know in the comics, she was not supposed to die. They wanted to have her, like, lose all her powers and kind of be like a new blank slate. And her and Cyclops are going to just go off and be happy together. Mm-hmm. But John Byrne drew the planet being wiped out. And Jim Shooter was like, no way. She killed, like, 3 billion people in the comics. And they're like, no way can you just have her go live her life after that. So they had to change the ending to her dying and everything. So,
and in the comic, too, it's much more like Jean is a lot more complicit, I feel like, in the comic than she is in the show.
Well, in the they do the whole thing where it's not actually Jean because Jean is underwater in a pod in suspended animation. And this is actually just Phoenix doing this in a different body. It all gets retconned and dumb. So really not killing anybody when she eats the star and doing the end here is a bit more accurate to what Claremont originally planned. So
it's interesting.
Yeah.
I they end up doing with it because then without her having committed an atrocity, they have to kind of work around it with why the Shi'ar are like taking such a hard line, and they have to spend that time to be like, if she did this here, she could do so much damage in the future that it's just not worth the risk.
They explain it later too that like sooner or later one star isn't going to be enough.
Yeah.
And then, Galactus is going to be like, hey, that's my turf, and then that's going to be a thing. Here's what also cracks me up, and this cartoon does it a lot. They're all meeting, but they're not meeting. The X-Men aren't meeting in the war room. They're meeting at the dining room table. There's
a lot of homey stuff,
that is full of food. So somebody had to make dinner and then serve it. And then now as we eat, we may discuss the problem that is Jean.
Yep. What did they talk about while they were cooking, do you think?
Not Jean. You can't do that.
No, we're not talking about that. Wait until we sit down.
Wait until dinner, Gambit. I just think we could save some time if we talked about it now. No!
We are focusing on cooking.
Oh, I don't know why I wrote this. I said if I was Phoenix, I'd just go to a party planet.
To like have the sensation
instead of Earth, because she comes back to Earth. Yeah, I would
she
just
comes
go
back so fast. She
I
just
would
like
just be
takes
like,
off and
screw
eats
Earth.
a star,
Yeah,
and then just comes straight back.
I would say screw Earth and go find a planet that's just a party 24/7.
Yeah, Earth's boring.
And I'm like, this is great. I don't know why I thought about going to Earth. All these sensations. They're working on a plan. Beast is making like a neural nullifier thing, a neural inhibitor. And do you notice on the computer it says "Love Carly"?
I did. It's got a little picture of Carly
from the Beauty and the Beast episode.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Was like, I never noticed that before, and I'm like, are they a couple now?
Yeah, I had never noticed that.
Was Beast trying to have a side piece with Apocalypse's ship?
Oh no.
He didn't tell Carly about that adventure. That's in the classifieds.
Let's do a recut of the entire show that's just Beast's love life.
Yeah, sure. Jean... Oh, because of their psychic rapport, which they don't... In the comics, they explain it, but in this, it's just, we have to believe that they have a psychic rapport.
Yeah.
Cyclops is like, Jean, she's here, she's back and everything. And it kind of feels like you want to be like, Cyclops, is Jean in the room with us right now?
Can you speak to her?
Am I talking to Jean? But Jean goes to her home, her parents' house. She goes to her old bedroom and she sees her cat Prometheus, which is a dumb name for a cat, but whatever.
Dumb name for a cat.
Yeah.
There's too much meaning behind a name Prometheus for it not to actually apply to the thing that you named.
Yeah, and also it's too long for a cat. And it's not like nicknameable. What do you call it? Like Promi?
Promi.
Promi.
Methi.
Yep. So
yeah,
I don't
can't
like
be done.
it. Anyway,
But she's clearly like cracked at this point.
Jean is all over the place mentally. Yes.
Yeah, she's like girlish, like little girly, and like flopping on her childhood bed.
She's looking for everybody. She's like, "Daddy, mommy, it's me."
Yeah.
And she's like hugging her teddy bear.
She has that little doll that's a Cyclops.
Yeah. It was predestined.
Isn't that cute?
It's something that no matter, I don't know, like the cartoon, this series has good voice actors, but it is hard to pull off the now pretend you're a little girl kind of acting. And it doesn't land in this, I don't think. Because especially when she looks out the car and she sees a car pulling up and she's like, "Daddy's home!"
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
She runs down there and we see that her family, her mother, dad, father, and sister are just been hiding in the kitchen.
Oh, I missed that. Do you see that?
They all just pop out like they're the Three Stooges from the kitchen, like, Jean. As she runs out and the car drives away, she's like, "What? No!" And then the X-Men fight her and she just throws them around and Rogue keeps having to catch like every X-Men that gets thrown in there. Though Wolverine tackles Jean and is gonna stab her. He's like, "I'm gonna have to do it. We all knew it might come to this." Because the neural inhibitor does not work. Hank gets it on her, but she just fries it instantly. Yeah. And Wolverine says, "We always knew it might come to this," and tackles her and is about to stab her. And Jean is there.
She wakes up as he's tackling her, and she's like, "Logan."
Mm-hmm.
But then she tells him to do it because it's the only time.
Yep. And he's like, "I can't."
He can't. And it happens again later where he has a chance and he doesn't take it.
Yep.
He's so hardcore the first time when he's like charging at her and he's like, "We knew this was going to happen. I'm going to murder her."
Yep.
But ever since then, he's like, "Ooh."
But yeah, he gets blasted. Rogue never catches Wolverine, though. She's catching everybody in these episodes.
She catches everyone else.
And he goes flying into a tree in this one.
Yeah, he can handle it.
And then Xavier shows up and has a mind fight with Jean.
Yeah, he does.
Which is always, in the comics and in this, I always feel like is a pretty dope Xavier moment where he is able to mentally, he needs Jean's help to do it.
Yeah.
But he's able to mentally withstand, he's able to stay alive and stay in the fight long enough that the two of them can put Phoenix away.
Yeah, locks her down.
And I don't know, it's hard to give Xavier, like, real cool wins because he is so powerful. To have him, like, in the comics, he almost, like, dies in the fight. And so in this, it's it's still kind of cool that Xavier can come out and be like, we did it.
Yeah, I think a lot of what is good about it in the show is the confidence that he has. I always like that when it's like, okay, now we're here, so I'm going to take care of business.
And they're able to have some fun fight scenes in the mind on the show. So he defeats, well, they lock her up, basically. They don't destroy her. She doesn't leave. She is put away.
Yeah.
But she's still in Jean's
sort of like
mind.
a Carol Danvers.
Yeah, so that's not depressing to think about. But then the Shi'ar show up and they're like, not good enough. And here comes my least favorite part of the Dark Phoenix Saga for the most part.
Here it comes. It's the X-Men in space.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't hate the next episode, but this is usually where I tune out with the Dark Phoenix Saga, because I'm like, I don't want to do the blue side of the moon. Blue side of the moon is so stupid.
But they can breathe.
Yeah. Oh boy, part 4. Brooks Michelle. You know what? I think I talked about this with the Phoenix Saga. That was 5 episodes, and I remember feeling like there was more filler than I wanted in those 5 episodes. And I feel like here, it's less so, even though these are a bit more action-oriented, and I don't know why. I guess because they are moving quicker.
Yeah, they probably are just covering more ground, and I do think that the fight scenes are better choreographed.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that in this episode.
Yeah. It's called The Fate of the Phoenix.
Yep. So the Shi'ar show up and like, we have to kill her. She's put to death. Xavier quickly mind scans Lilandra and says, I evoke Arnin Harnar, or whatever it's called. And she's like, darn it!
Yeah, man, these kinds of... this always happens in like sci-fi and fantasy and stuff, that like this ancient civilization always has this thing that you can invoke, and there's nothing that they can do. They have to honor it. It's
especially
definite,
like
you have to.
The Shi'ar, like she makes a point like, I have to go discuss things with races that were ancient before your star had planets, and I'm like, but you still have trial by combat. It's like,
you can't say no.
I'm like, listen, democracy has its faults, but we don't fight to the death over who gets to be president most of the time.
Most of the time.
It's just, I mean, maybe we're heading there, and if we do, that's, a regression. So, I don't know, Shi'ar. Maybe get rid of
Shi'ar.
Arnar, Hanar, or whatever. It is Star Trek.
Consider it.
Star Trek, yeah, you're right. It's always like, we'll do trial by combat. It's like, no, that's dumb. We'll vote.
That's a dumb
Everybody
thing.
voted that Phoenix is too dangerous. Oh no, sorry, we don't have a trial by combat, humans. Anyway, they all leave, and then Jean's family come out again, and it's like, so they were just here? Lame.
Just like watching it happen.
We cut to them in space, and they're like, I evoke Hanar again, and all the aliens are like, wah! And you see an ET that's blue, I guess? Also a xenomorph from the Alien series. So yeah, she says she has to go, Lilandra says she has to go discuss it, and we see the Kree and the Skrull, and both are lame.
They are. Particularly the Kree, I think. Although the Kree, I guess, is probably the big leader person.
It's the big head, yes.
Yeah.
I just feel like she said I have to go talk to these cool, super ancient races, and I'm like, the Kree and the Skrulls? Boring.
Yeah, I was waiting because I was sure there would be more than just those. Because you have the Kree and the Skrull, and they're also very closely connected.
Yeah.
So like, that's basically one cameo.
Yeah. I don't know. At one point, Xavier says something, I can't remember the full thing, but he basically discusses like, doesn't your love or something, we're in love, can't you not have this blue? And she says that was unworthy of you to try to use her love for him against her politically. And she's not wrong. He's definitely like, I don't know, he should understand that she's got bigger priorities than like when she wants to kiss him. And he's I think
Lilandra comes off pretty well.
She does in this episode. I'm not usually...
She has a lot of resolve.
Yeah.
But she's compassionate. Yeah. I don't know. She seems like a good leader.
Yeah. She's like, before I can be this, I'm, the emperor and everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's cool. And the fact that she like calls him out for, doing that because he knew.
I know, I love that.
He knew he couldn't, but he still had to ask. Don't you love me more than your entire people?
Come on.
It's me or your civilization, Lilandra. Come on.
Which are you going to choose, Lilandra?
Why don't you just come home with me? You can like hang out while I write songs and stuff.
I'll give you flowers every day.
So we cut to the X-Men like training and conversating before their big fight tomorrow. And Cyclops is talking about like, I don't know, I want to be with her, but I can't, and all this stuff. And Rogue's like, I know how you feel. It's the love between you is what I always want. I'm like, Rogue, this isn't about you. For 1 minute.
Don't make everything about you.
You are my favorite, Rogue. But right now, you don't have to remind people that if you touch somebody with your skin, you'll absorb their life force, and thus you can't have anybody close with you. It's just like, not the time.
Sad too, Cyclops. But I think it's pretty cool of Cyclops that he actually weighs like the impact and the implications of what's going on. Yeah. Like he's like, I don't know, like is it worth the risk?
Yeah.
Like she's one person.
Jean shows up in her Marvel Girl costume. Which
that was cute.
We've never seen it in this. That's what she does in the comics. But she's like, this is how you first met me here. She gets to have bare legs as Marvel Girl, so I don't understand cartoon rating politics.
What's the ethics of cartoon?
Yeah, what is it? She's like, maybe because she's good now she can have bare legs, but when she was bad, that's too suggestive?
Oh, maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows?
So they get sent to the blue area of the moon. I am not a fan of the concept of the blue area of the moon. I'm also not a fan of the Inhumans for the most part, so whatever. But yeah, they can breathe on the moon and everything.
They can breathe, and there's like all these ruins from a previous civilization, and they're all like very moderately intrigued by this. They're just like, oh, huh.
Yeah.
They move on with their life.
Beast does his whole like fascinating.
Oh, well, let's go fight.
Yep, let's go fight.
So they all break into kind of like smaller groups and disappear around the things.
Yeah.
And they fight all of the various gladiator people.
I don't understand. Gambit describes the blue area of the moon and its ruins as some kind of spooky Mardi Gras.
He does.
And I'm just like, how does that apply? What? In what way is this anything like Mardi Gras, let alone being spooky?
Yeah, it's just a bunch of ruins.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Imperial Guard shows up for the fight. Again, I think I mentioned this before, but there was a point in my life where I knew the names of the Imperial Guard.
Of course you did.
I don't anymore, and which is why remembering Leland's name felt so great for me. But like,
I used to be like Gladiator.
Gladiator is it now. I can't.
That's the one I know.
One's name might be Photon for all I know. I think the fights between the X-Men and the Imperial Guard in this is much more interesting to watch than that fight between the Imperial Guard and the X-Men versus the canon stuff in the Phoenix Saga. It's better choreographed. It's more personal because they are split up, so it's like one fighting two or one fighting one.
Yeah. And you get sort of like them sneaking and like jumping in and like deciding what they're gonna do.
And their powers have an impact because they're not fighting Deken, who can't be defeated when he's in the crystal. In this, like there's a bit more stakes in this fight. So I actually didn't hate that it became action. And yeah, the stakes between their fighting to save Jean's life also feels just more personal. So I was more into this episode than I normally am into with the whole blue area of the moon fight times.
Yeah. I thought that the voice acting was good for all of them because you had, that the X-Men are fighting to protect Jean, but then the Shi'ar dudes are fighting like for what they think is the most important thing. Like you get that urgency.
Yeah.
When like one of them would go down and they'd be like, no, we can't lose.
Yeah.
The universe.
Yeah, and like the one saying like your loyalty to your friend speaks highly of your species, but also I'm going to blow you up.
Yep.
Yeah, and we get more moments where Xavier is just sad because he's watching his X-Men lose and Lilandra's like vizier or whatever is like, won't you go to him? She's like, before I am a woman, I am an empress.
An empress.
And yeah, being in charge is lonely. It's lonely at the top. Lilandra has learned long ago.
They write songs about that.
So anyways, the X-Men are fighting and it's just Jean and Cyclops at one point. They go out fighting together, and Cyclops get taken out, and oh yeah, that would make Jean mad. Jean is the Phoenix. Don't make Phoenix mad.
Yeah, I thought it was insane that Jean is a part of this fight at all.
It is, I don't know what, because the idea, the Kree and the Skrull and Lilandra all agree they can have this fight as long as the X-Men lose and you still end up destroying Phoenix. But, like, how did they think they were going to do it? She's Phoenix.
She's Phoenix.
So it's just kind of like, they're like, oh no, her powers, the Dark Phoenix. It's like, yeah, what did you think was going to happen? Destroying her boyfriend. Did you think she was going to be like, all right, you guys win?
Yep. She breaks free.
She's able to contain it one more time because Cyclops is like, please, Jean, it's me, I love you and stuff. And she does that whole speech about how I can't control it, not every moment of every day for the rest of my life, without slipping even for a moment. And then she goes out and she lets them blow her up.
Yeah.
And it's actually weirdly effective in this. Like, the moment,
it was, yeah.
I feel like the epicness of it all just kind of comes across.
Yeah, it was good. And I think maybe the pacing of it, because, like, she's running away from Scott. Mm-hmm. And, like, is she controlling the Shi'ar ship?
You know, I think she might. I can't remember. I watched it 2 days ago. How am I supposed to remember that?
But one way or another, she goes to a place where she's away from Scott, so he won't get hit. But she lets herself get hit by this giant blast. Yep. And yeah, I don't know. It is very effective.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe this animated series has somehow taken this part 4 and done a better job of it than, because I usually don't care for this part in the comics, but here we are, and I'm in it. Maybe I should reread those issues and be like, oh yeah, now it works. Who knows? Maybe
you should. I did. I thought it was interesting how close they kept to the comics, because I feel like a lot of the time in this series, they'll sort of like
bounce back,
do an homage to like something from the comics, or they'll, we're going to do the thing, but they don't really go like point by point. But this felt pretty close.
Yeah. So then they're all sad, and Scott's real sad because all the Shi'ar come down, and Scott's just like, are you happy, Lilandra? You've got your justice! He's all teary-eyed and everything. But then the Phoenix shows up, and she's still fine. They only killed Jean, not the Phoenix, and the Phoenix is all cool now.
She's using her nice voice again.
I think this also is Tracy Moore, who is the voice of Emma Frost.
Oh, okay.
Is the voice of Phoenix. Yeah, and she's like, when I was attached to Jean, woo-wee, those senses, I just couldn't get enough of them. But now that I'm separated, I'm cool, I'm chill.
I'm normal
I get
again.
it now. Yep, I'm mainlining here. We're good. And they're like, well, great. What about Jean? And she has this plan where she can take the life of somebody else and give it to Jean. And Cyclops is like, well, that will be me. And Wolverine's like, nuh-uh, it's going to be me. And Wolverine says, you're out of line on this one. And I'm like, how?
Yeah. In what way?
Yeah, explain it better, Wolverine. Just say, no, you love her. That way you guys can be together. Take me. But no, it's just like, you're out of line, man. Everybody knows she likes me better. I don't know.
She wants my life.
But then the Phoenix corrects it and says, no, actually, I can just take little pieces of each one of you, and that can make a life. But it's going to have to take years off your lives.
There doesn't seem to actually be any real consequence.
Yeah. I mean, all the X-Men are only going to live to 40. So
there you go.
Yeah, she does that, and then
do they all hold hands in a circle? Am I remembering that correctly?
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah.
As the energy blasts through all of them, and then enters Jean, and Jean's alive. And the Phoenix just books it. And I'm like, well, congratulations, Shi'ar. You still have a Phoenix Force out there.
Yeah, have fun with that.
But you know what? I'm okay with it all.
You're okay. Yeah.
I like it.
I think it's good. I mean, as far as this kind of like everything is magically better in the end, it didn't play as cheesy as it might have. I thought it worked okay.
You know, I am trying to go through my memory, and I just feel like Jean isn't really in the show anymore after this. Like, she's there, but I feel like she's just there. And maybe on this rewatch I'll be corrected, but I feel like she never really shows up anymore.
When I used to think about the animated series, I felt like Jean was never in it ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be too surprised if that's true, because that was my impression.
Cyclops is, but I feel like in all the coming seasons, they kind of just don't use her anymore because, I don't know, maybe they've just run out of stories to tell with her, and also, what's her power level anymore? So I guess we'll see going forward.
Yeah.
Hilary.
Yeah?
How do you feel about the Dark Phoenix 4-part episodes?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a bit, but since I've really enjoyed one of these episodes. I've always had complaints about them, but I liked these 4. They went well.
Yeah.
How about you?
I feel like my feelings towards the Phoenix Saga are the same as the show, where Earthbound Phoenix Saga, I like it. Spacebound, I tune out. This one, same thing, except this show was able to kind of pull me back in with the space stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's the moon, and the moon is part of Earth, So it's not really...
Sure. It's grounded
and
in
also,
a way.
It's only this episode that we're in space, whereas the Phoenix Saga, most of it felt like we were in space.
Yeah, you're right. And there's a lot, there's sort of chapters to this story.
Kendra, my wife, pointed out that it is kind of repetitive with the whole, Jean, I can't control it. It's my sensations. Jean, I can't control it. There's a lot of that because the show can only do so much, I guess. And it also has to tell the stories a little bit faster.
Yeah, they have some repetition with her being like, no, it's fine. You have to kill me. Like a few times.
I feel for the most part that it's good. And looking back, like, I wasn't the biggest fan of that last episode with the Phoenix Saga. But, I mean, the cartoon, if somebody was like, I don't understand the Phoenix Saga, why do people think the movies don't do a good job or whatever? You could just show them these 9 episodes and they would get it.
Yeah, just be like, this is what was supposed to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, together, the 9 episodes all together make a really strong adaptation of the whole Phoenix Saga. And then they're still able to tell X-Men stories after, which is good. So,
yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, pretty good, successful situation.
Yeah. It is weird that these aren't the final episodes of the seasons, but next episode would be us talking about Orphan's End and Love in Vain. And Love in Vain, I remember not being very good, so we'll see.
I don't remember either of these at all. A lot of the titles I have like emotional associations with, but these I have nothing.
Orphan's End is the return of Corsair.
Okay.
And Love in Vain will be a rogue story about the first boy she ever kissed.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cody!
I remember that one.
Cody!
Oh, Cody.
Cody, I kissed you once, Cody!
I have so many feelings.
All right.
Well, I'm interested to see Orphan's End because now I actually know anything about Corsair.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that production-wise, Orphan's End comes right after the Dark Phoenix Saga because it is more Corsair, Shi'ar, and and Cyclops. So
yeah,
just a lot. But anyway,
it's a lot.
This is the Cyclops season, really, when you think about it. When you get to it, it's the Cyclops season.
When you break it right down.
All right. Anything else, Hilary?
No, we got that. Well, the next episode that comes on the feed is going to be, we're going to talk about X-Men Green. Have you read any of those on the Infinity Comics?
I have not.
I like pounded that entire Infinity comic, and like right in the middle there's stuff with Nature Girl and Curse, who's like weird. Have you? This was my first interaction.
I don't know if
Curse.
I've gotten to the Infinity Comics stuff in terms of the Reign of Vex.
It's bananas.
The Krakoa stuff. I don't think I'm there yet with the Krakoa stuff, but also I tend not to read the Infinity Comics outside of It's Jeff.
Well, this one you should read when you get there. It's pretty good. It spans like there's a whole big thing with like Deadpool and
I read that the
Juggernaut.
I read that some of the stuff has become more important to the mainline X-Men comics. So when I get there, I'll get there.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
It's been Green Day.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for this episode.
Woo!
Okay. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, This Endorian Life, and 9021 Here We Go. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, or share this show wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.
Bye!
Bye!